let's see if I can come down here and get to a decision point here where it might make sense. Okay, is it time to be a seller? Well, here's all the strength, right? Do I want to make the assumption here that we're going to come into that? Okay, maybe you do. Let me just to, again, this is the process you got to go through. Let's look over to a 5-minute. Am I getting any other new information here? Well, the one thing that you see over here when you look at it on a 5-minute is how much we're just lack of direction here. Look at the size of these wicks. Right, giant reversal bar, giant. This is. I mean, the whole week was like this. We're in a very high volatility coming into the year end, right? Holiday week. So this is not terribly surprising. Things to note. Now look at this. Okay, what do we see at the tops? All right, well, here in the middle, but at these tops. So if you were saying, what is it I want to set up in my auto trader here? Well, that's volume sequencing. So maybe if you're a retracement trader and you're thinking, yeah, I kind of like that retracement trading. Well, maybe at this point here, where we're coming into all of this here, you'd say, I kind of like seeing that volume sequencing up here. So maybe I want to put that into my volumes, into my auto trader for a condition that I want to have present, like I have it present here, like I have it present here, like I have it present here. Maybe I want those, right? So maybe I want to turn that. So if I'm going to say, okay, at least 2 of these, well, I want volume sequencing and an exhaustion print. Well, okay, so if I get volume sequencing and an exhaustion print, take the short. Okay, so here we sit. Now we've come right back to yesterday's VWAP. We're coming into an area of consolidation. Here's the order block that it launched from. Oh, looks like the 50 and the golden zone here are down below. So here, right in, well, here's the location that looks kind of interesting, right? So here's where we and then note the pre-market low is in here as well. So if we were to come down into that, that's when I would do that. Well, let's get you off here. I turn on long enable and say if I get in this zone here, I start to like it. Boom, all we do is turn it on. Then if any of these 2 are present, in the trade. Now for this, I should. Well, let me put here. I'll show you the settings that I'm using here. So this also an area of much experimentation. I would encourage you to do a lot of back testing with this. So I'm changing this up from the last video I did very deliberately here to show you some examples. So rather than wait for the bar close, I'm going in real time. So if it sees these things intra-bar, it'll take the trade. Again, I'm working with 3 lots here. I've got two scalps out at 5 ticks. So here's my scalp targets, 5 ticks. No break even on that. It's too small. And then I'm leaving a runner, and then again a chandelier stop with 1.5 times the current ATR. So you've got that happening here, and that will go to break even if we get to 1.5. And then I'm using a target here, although I'll move them, of 16. So first target is 5 ticks. Second target is 16. Although often if you got to be mindful of where that lands on the board. So you might take a trade here based on the entry, but then for example, your runner lands, 2 ticks beyond a golden zone. So maybe you're thinking, oh, okay, well, I'm going to move that up a little bit here because I don't want that to get 2 ticks from my target and then reverse because we hit a golden zone. So you got to use a little bit of just awareness of where you are on the board. As those land on the chart. So that's a suggestion, right? This is a good place to start. Now note here that if I'm using a 9-tick stop, you're going to have to do a little testing on this. So if the potential here is if I were to take a full hit on 9 ticks, we're going to, well, you would want to, that's 112. So if we take it on 3, we're looking at 337. So if you're going to, your potential target here is not quite the same. So let me tell you. Again, there's no real right formula here, although with this setup right here, with a full hit on the stop of 9 ticks, that's 337. If I hit the targets here with a 16-tick runner, that's 3.25. So you're running kind of 1-to-1 here. Actually, it's not quite 1-to-1. So your win rate is going to need to be higher here than if you were trying to go after 32 ticks on your runner. So mathematically, that works better for you. But again, it just comes from a lot of screen time. To just blindly say, okay, well, I've got to stay short until I get to 32 ticks so that the risk reward works for me, I don't think it's quite that black and white because it's all a function of where does that target land and what is the market going to have to clear before it gets there. So you've got to use a little judgment there. So for example, if my here, let's close this here. So if as I was just kind of laying this out, if my target, because I was being deliberate about trying to get 2-to-1 risk reward, if my target is right here and I'm looking at that going, okay, well I got my scalps out, and now I'm going to stubbornly stay because I have to get 2-to-1 until I get here, and I'm not going to touch it until I get there. I mean, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying I wouldn't do that for whatever that's worth, right? So I would move the stop up a little bit. So it's like, oh shit, I'm not going to get my 2-to-1. Well, okay, because I don't want to get right here, pivot, and then I'm stubbornly waiting down here because I got to have my 2-to-1. I wouldn't do that, right? Because I know the odds are high there's going to be a reaction there. So rather than just say, oh well, my trailing stop here will get it, maybe it'd be a scratch. Well, I just gave back, like 3-4 points. I would rather put that target kind of strategically located here, and I'm sure, yeah, we're going to work with a trailing stop so that you maximize the profit potential. But I would be careful about that. Okay, well, it's got to be 2-to-1, right? It's got to be, or I can't make the math work. Okay, again, it's just not that black and white, right? Where does your runner's target land? Adjust accordingly based on just the reality of the market here. So now I am absolutely making a point of saying that if you're running at a 1-to-1, I mean your TA skills have got to be good in terms of when we turn it on, when we turn it off, and that's thus all the more why practicing is so essential here. Okay, well, can you do it with 1-to-1? Well, take a week, find out. Okay, try it at 2-to-1. Does it work out any better? 3-to-1, better. 0.5-to-1, better. Right? I mean, some people they can't take the stress, right? If it gets too close, or they just get out, right? It's a lot of this is just your personality. What type of trader are you? How comfortable are you just letting a trade float? I can't give you an answer there. I say it's because that's a function of how do you like to approach the market and what's your comfort level, leaving money waffling at risk here, right? I mean, nothing, and I mean nothing, pisses me off more than to get 1-2 ticks from my target, or absolutely the worst, touch no fill, right? It just drives me crazy, right? Because you're right there, you're expecting the fill, it pushes away, and so it's tempting to think, oh, okay, it'll come back, but often, right, it'll leave you. So you got to use some judgment there. Again, there's no right answer, right? It's just the reality of trading. Okay, let me carry. Jesus Christ, it's going to be. I have to cut this in a couple of videos. Okay, let's keep going here and see if we get anything here. Oh, here, hang on a second. I had to disable it so I could show you how it was set. So let me get back into. Oh, here I can disable it, or I can enable it over here. Get that enabled and loaded again. Okay, so there we go. All right, so we're down here. So we can see what's above here. So here's the sell-off. I've come up to this. Here, am I going here? Yep, okay, there we go. Okay, so here, yesterday's VWAP. Interesting. Okay, is there enough here? But look, boy, it's crowded down here. Crowded, and it's crowded above, right? So, come here. All right, so want to turn it on here? All right, I like it a little bit lower. Geez, I'm trying to show you a trade. But if anything, perhaps, right, this gives you some ideas about, okay, use it cautiously. Use it cautiously. Okay, well, if you're thinking short, wouldn't you like to see a lower high? Potential for a lower high. I'd still be, based on what I'd be looking at over here, I'd still be inclined to be leaning on the long side. That's just me. All right, so this is what I see down here. I'm looking at all this going, okay, bring me in here. I like that idea, right? So if I can come, maybe we get back down to the 50, maybe we hit the 0 line here, and then we start to go. So let's see how we would look over here, and then at what point am I going to want to go over to the footprint and maybe look at turning that auto trader on. Oh, it's too, oh shit, maybe I should get this to that decision point. I like it down here. I'd be, well, okay, so I've got the IB mid right there. Enough room? Well, I got POC, I got a high volume node, I got the VWAP here, I've got some structure up here, I've got an order block, I've got fair value gaps here. I can see the break there. There's the trend line break, right? The insinuation is perhaps there's an opportunity to go up and revisit that high, or at least challenge that high. Okay, let's, here are we here? Okay, we're coming in right where it was interesting. Okay, so we're coming right into, we just tagged, that's the 21 EMA. We've come out of the squeeze. We've had the expansion. Now we're not quite a contraction yet, but well, at least we're at a retracement point. Okay, so now if I'm looking at that, now I'm coming over here and I'm looking at this going, okay, well, has the field cleared any more for me? Well, has it? You're sitting in a fair value gap as you're approaching yesterday's low. Sure, look, what does your eye see, right? Swing, retrace. Now, well, if it's going to do that, what's the first thing we got to clear, right? We got to clear this order block. We got to clear POC, high volume, VWAP, right? So like traffic. Sorry, I wish I could make this easier for you, but there's the reality, right? Now, maybe you don't have this on your charts. You're like, well, shit, good spot. You take it. Well, with a little more insight, okay, this has been tested, right? Hasn't been broken. Test. I honestly don't remember. Okay, well, let's see if I can get some sign of something bullish here. Okay, so yeah, stop. Okay, all right. So all right, now we've tapped this order block here. So let's turn this on. I promise you, I don't remember what the result is here. But there's a trade that I'd be looking to take. Okay, it's 10:15. So 45 minutes into the day, I've got some signs of, okay, I've come back to that location where I had drawn it out over here saying, okay, well, that's of interest to me. I don't know what we get here. For all I know, we go up one bar and then roll over. But I would be interested here. So if I turn this on, I'm saying, okay, as long as two of these fire, okay, let's go ahead and take the trade. We're coming out. Let's look at it over here. All right, what can we see that we get to stop it here? Well, potentially, right? I'd have some trap traders down here, right? That's decent size. It's the POC at the low end of the bar, and with this wick rejection. Well, but okay. Now, having said that, note here. Having said that, right? We're coming right back up. Here's another golden zone. There's another 50, right? So I've got them at from different pivots. There's this pivot, right, coming back, and then there's this pivot coming back. So I got to clear that traffic. Got to clear the POC. I watch the market long enough. If we get to the POC, there's going to be a reaction, right? We get to VWAP, there's going to be a reaction. So it doesn't mean we roll over and go to new lows, but likely because an algo will connect to anything it can. So, right, is there enough here to support the idea? Okay, well let's take the one shot long here and see what we get. I don't remember, but I don't even know if we get some 5. Okay, so we have imbalances.
Order filled.
Okay, so the first one gets hit. We sit it. Now here, what did we run into? Golden zone to POC. Not enough here to do anything. Can we get, now here, there's an example here where I might.
Order filled.
Okay, so let's stop that. Right, so why was I thinking I could pull that down? Well, I'm at POC. Okay, let's draw it out. All right, so here I've got wick rejection at this prior pivot. So one potential outcome here is we go up here, grab the liquidity, and then retrace. But this series here is exactly what we're after. Okay, so as we started to go up here, we're pushing into it. This was kind of the key bar, because if it was going to roll over, it would have been right here, right? If we hit that order block. But next bar, a little bit of weakness, and then we go. So now, would you have been able to just look at that and go, right? So the thing that was kind of drew my attention were these guys right here. You see, that's kind of weird how it won't let me draw in there, but you see that 158 there. So these guys are pushing low, right? So here's the wick rejection. Here's the imbalances. We've got imbalances which gives the candle the green outline. Now there's a bit of risk here because we're going right into this order block here where we know there was selling, right? You see these guys. Oh, I'm assuming, right? So this is the advantage of being able to stop, right? So you see these guys right here, right? So they were down, they go, right? So here you see them, right? They stand out. Now, are they in trouble here? Are they covering? Yeah, they're covering. But do we keep going here? Well, you can't make that assumption here. We're coming right back into prior resistance. Looks like you actually, just from bar to bar, you also had a... All right, can we go up and get that? Again, I don't remember what happens next, but I would not be chasing here. Okay, let's see what we got here. Maybe we're just going to launch up here, and we got golden zones, IB. We got a whole lot of traffic to get through up here. I would not be chasing that myself. All right, so we got one good trade. Now, for me, again, this is just my style, right? So if this is going to keep going, well, here's the target off of this one. Right now I got another one going to hit that target up there, right at the value area high. Now, do we have enough legs to keep going? Well, of course we don't know. Pre-market mid. All of this is potential, right? Again, it's potential resistance as we get up here. Now, that doesn't mean if we get up here, we want to sell it necessarily. What I would encourage you to think about is, okay, well, can I at least get a lower high? So I could look to sell that rather than just try and pick the turn, right? It's almost like this, right? Okay, well, that's good. Is that the lower high? Well, I don't know that I'd say that. But this was what was interesting, right? So now we start to go. Now, am I going to chase that? Well, and that's also a good example. We got to be careful about being in continuous. Because if the conditions are there, you get your target, and the conditions are here again, it's going to go again. And that would... I mean, it's going to have to be a major ripper for that to be the case, because there's too much profit taking along the way. The market doesn't move that way, right? Swing, right? It's back and forth. Profit, loss. It's not nonstop, right? So there's got to be something driving it, or whales have something intention in mind, right? They move the market, not us, right? So if they have something in mind here, okay, well, this is going to have to keep ripping because we got plenty of resistance. And not only that, here we're at 10:16, so not quite IB time. We'd be thinking here, but we don't know if it's going to get up there and break that. But boy, that's a lot of resistance to get through. Nothing says it can't, but lots of imbalances, order blocks, prior pivot. All right, let's see here. I'm trying to... Oh, we'll get at least another one. Shit, we only had one trade here. So, okay. Now, is this potentially now the start of a retrace? So we're right back here. Here's the break of structure. Right back to that.
Order submitted.
Oh shit. Oh, that's good. That's a good example. I forgot I had it in continuous. Well, let's see here. This is a good. Actually, I would have already gotten out if I was in that trade. I'd gotten out because I didn't want it. But here's it. Maybe we'll get it. Let's just see. But
order filled.
There we go. Has that got any legs here? I wouldn't be longing there. That's why I want that to be paused. But that's a good example. It's easy to make that mistake.
Order filled.
Right, so we got it. All right, all the better. So, oh shit, here I got to, there we go. Okay, so we got a, here was the trade we liked. Now here, interesting, like we come right back here to this, where we have this exhaustion print. Here, let me get all my drawings off of there. Do you see we're tapping the edge? So here's the break of structure right here, okay? So here's the imbalance. Now, open that up. You can see the imbalance, right? You see it right here? I mean, we're moving so fast, and then here we've got aggression at the top. Now, these guys were vulnerable to the retrace here. So, but we keep going now as we come back. Look what we're tapping, the edge of the imbalance, the fair value gap, right? So, do you understand what we're looking at here? So it's the high of this candle, right, to the low of that candle, right? So all of this is the imbalance. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Pause. Can we keep going? Can we keep going? Well, let's test it. Test the imbalance. So the premise is that what's happening here is that this is the structure. Right now we're coming back to test it. Oh, what's happening here? Sellers coming in? Nope. Good, good, good. Edge of fair value, right? So why would I be hesitant to be a buyer there? Well, what is that telling us, right? Okay, well, 68% of all of the volume has been in that range here. Do I want to be pushing for something beyond that? Well, okay, there better be big legs behind this, right, to push the value area higher. Maybe there is. But if you're a retracement trader, what is it you're hoping for? Right? That's what you would look for. Right now, that's assuming they can break the IB high, which is never, ever something to assume. Right? Odds are there'll be a test here. If they get through, okay, maybe we have a trend day. I don't remember. God, I gotta get another trade here, and then we'll look to stop it, or at least split this into multiples. Okay, what am I at? 2 times? All right, so what is it? So it's not the IB high yet. Dealing with that traffic pretty well. Well, here we are, outside of a value range. Does that do anything? Well, we could reset. We could push the value range higher, right? If we've got real legs here. Oh, okay, pause just for a second. Now, this is an advantage, and I know it's not so much that I'm trying to sell you the market structure indicator. I'm just demonstrating that, boy, is it handy to have. So because I can see this, right? So if I take it off, okay, do I still have clues here? Yeah. Can I see the fair value gap here? Like, well, hey, this one, there's a little gap between that one and that one, so there's a fair value gap, and oh, it looks like maybe there's another one down here. Now, are you going to be doing this, right? While the market's trading? Probably not, right? I mean, you want software to do that. So that's probably how you interpret it. But it's such an advantage to having that. If maybe you can take your winnings from whatever you're doing, right, and working with the footprint indicator and invest in that market structure, so you can get that insight. Because this is just, I mean, it's hard not to see the benefit of that, right? So I know here they are. So the point I'm trying to make here is that if from here, if I start to retrace, remember the very first thing we talked about, I got all of this signs of strength here. Now, that doesn't mean we can't do that. But if I'm looking and I'm thinking about when I want to turn that auto trader on, again, it's not just because of what I see in these two candles. The whole thing has to set up. Boy, wouldn't this be just gorgeous, right? Into this prior pivot, back to the fair value gap. I'm on the edge of, well, here's VWAP. I've got a nice big high volume. Here's a low volume node. I have no idea, right, what comes. Wouldn't that be interesting? Right? So you can sit here and say, all right, well, if that comes, right, I'm turning this on. I don't know here. I got to get out of this video here. This will be a 3-hour video. Okay, let's see, right? Do we even, again, I don't even know if that's the IB high. All right, fair value gap. Now we could keep pushing, right? This line will just go because it's not 10:30 yet. All right, here, I'll fast forward here. I'll pause here and we'll go to a next decision point. Okay, so I've just gone forward. This is now 10:28, same day. I just gone a little bit forward. Okay, decision point. So let's look here. So here now we've just had this double top up here. So this, again, kind of trying to talk you through it. Kind of the thought process here. So as we look at this, right? So again, I encourage you to go back and forth between the two. Now let's come over here. Okay, so we've got this big cluster here that we've bumped into. Right? So we've got a supply zone, pre-market high, fair value gap, yesterday's high. Golden zone here. We're in a fair value gap. There's an order block here. There's a whole lot of potential, right? It's always just that potential resistance up there. And then, okay, well, let's note a couple of things here. So here, right, I see some divergence. So this is, if you're gonna have these momentum tools, this is the kind of thing to look for. So as we're popping here, so the first thing you'll notice here is we just looked at, right? So here's the measured move, right? We come up here. Now the time is a little bit tricky here in that a trade that we look for every day is the first test of the IB high. Now this is testing here at 10:26, 27. It's a little bit earlier. It's not ideal. You'd like to have the first time you hit it be the initial push into it. So this is a little trickier here, but nonetheless, we know this is natural resistance. Now, technically at 10:27, 26, it's not the IB high yet because it doesn't lock until 10:30. But this is interesting that we're putting in a double top here. This is potentially a little front run here. So as we sit, now note where we are. We're at a high volume node at the POC, right? Here's VWAP, right, in another low volume node here. So if there's a retrace, right, again, it's kind of what I've been focusing on through this entire video. And we're not even on the footprint chart yet, of course. I know people are like, I thought this was about the footprint chart. Okay, well, if we're coming down into this area here, yeah, that's when I want to go over to the footprint chart and say, oh, okay, maybe in this location here, I want to look at maybe turning on the auto trader to get so that I don't miss a setup for a long. So let's come back over here. All right, so we see here's all that strength, that area. So here, talk about, okay, a potential, this is a rather large area of interest. I mean, that's almost 10 points area of interest. All right, on a 2,000 tick. So as we come, well, where's the first thing that was, the obvious things that we would want to look for, even if we scrunch this up a little bit? Well, the order block would be, of course, of interest, but the fair value gaps are not to be ignored as well. So if we come in this zone here, I'd be interested. Now, of course, additionally, right, we want to look at, well, where's the 50? Could we come down that low? Well, that's a pretty good drop if we're coming down this far to come into this double top here. And here's the order block. So just knowing that those are there, that's our auto fibs. All right, let's get this puppy going again. All right, let's see. I think we've got. Okay, so there's a classic example of algos will react off of it. So that's the pre-mid. Really? So is that's a thing? Well, there you go. Right? There's a reaction to it. So would you be thinking, oh man, I better time to get long? Okay. Well, you look here and you say, okay, well that seems like an area of interest here. Here's the 21 McGinley. I know that's a potential support area. Maybe, right? So but here, look at imbalances, sequencing, volume prints here. So all of this coming down here. Okay, well that makes sense, right? So we've come down here. Now look. All right, so this is why I have it on my chart. So there's no possible way I can miss it. Squeeze. Okay, so we're coming into the squeeze. So the anticipation, right? You can see the Bollinger Bands contracting. Oh, what am I on 8? Let's slow that down a little bit. Oh, maybe we'll go to 2 here. Get you to a decision point here. Okay, just look like maybe. Well, let's turn it on.
Order submitted.
Okay, that didn't take long. Nope. Let's get you over here. Well, let's stay focused over here. Okay, high volume node sequencing, maybe, right? It's going to have to. I'd like to get that filled before we take a run here at the high. I don't know if we get it. I honestly don't remember. Okay, too soon to go to break even, right? Look here, we're running into that. So there's maybe enough. I might come up a touch right here to the edge of that order block. I don't know if we get this.
Order filled.
Okay, so it's paused. Okay, so decent example here. Oh, let's pause that.